Right, questions. Guys, if you have got questions, let me know in the chat. These are some questions from the Tank Club Discord from this week. This isn't going to be a super long one today. The last time we did a Q&A session, it was like an hour and a half. Questions. We've got our first question. These are from the Tank Club Discord. If you're not in there already, you should be. Why are you not in there already? Here we go. So, what's the difference from VCR 1 to 3 from the tank perspective? Okay? Basically, nothing. So the only difference, really, that you've got in VCR from +1 to 3 is in the portal, there's less portals to jump up on the side, and there's more crystals to kill. And the only difference will be the actual mechanics. So the fire, the bar swap, the ice. That is the only difference between VCR 1 to 3. Nice and easy. Nightblade Tank. Is it good for trial compositions? These questions, we're going to get through these very, very quickly today. So Nightblade Tank for trial compositions is completely useless. The reason that is the case is because they provide no benefit whatsoever to most groups nowadays. So they only benefit a stamina group. Nightblade tanks are good for actual physical tanking. They can tank content. The problem is they offer no benefit. They don't do anything. So that is the issue with a Nightblade tank. They're good at being a tank and taking damage and things like that. They're not good at providing a group utility or group buffs or group debuffs. They're not good at that at all. They are the worst in the game for that kind of thing, which means they're not good for trials, and they're completely useless in a Magicka group. In a stamina group, you could use one if there's no other Nightblade. So, there you go. That is my thoughts on the Nightblade tank. Is Alkosh worth using on a Warden tank? You plan on using dual ice staves. So, in that situation, yes, it possibly is. Because if you're using a dual ice stave kind of build, you're going to be missing out on Minor Breach. So that's 3k pen. Alkosh provides 3k pen. It's kind of a waste. Because, obviously, if you're missing Minor Breach, it's a shame that you can't just have that in there somewhere. But yeah, Alkosh on a double staff build is good because it will make up for the lack of Breach. If somebody else can provide Breach, though, especially in a trial situation, then that is better. So, if you've got a Templar with Power of the Light, that would be the better option. If you can do something to get Minor Breach, then that's fine, and then you wouldn't need Alkosh. But if you don't have a source of Minor Breach, then yeah, Alkosh would be worth bringing into that situation. Absolutely. Okay. The new pen set. Yeah, the new pen set would be better for next patch. So, yeah, Crimson Oath is far superior to Alkosh. Alkosh next patch, though, is based on weapon damage and can do higher pen. So it really depends on what you're missing. But yeah, Crimson Oath would be a better option than Alkosh. I'll just wait till next patch and probably slot that instead. Because it's got a wider radius. It's an AoE 360 degree, easier to proc, so definitely that would be better. But Alkosh does have a 6k pen value for next patch, so it really depends which option you kind of want to look at, if it's going to be a single target or an AoE fight and that kind of thing. Okay, someone has written, hey yo, we've got Scott Hull from the NWO in the Discord. Hey yo, would I be a nut job if I double frost Jorvolds as a Crow tank? Yolnakrin, Jorvolds, or Sax and Jorvolds? It's a bit unnecessary. To run Jorvolds generally. With the Yolnakrin, on a double frost staff, Jorvolds, Necro tank, I probably wouldn't bother personally. There's many other sets I'd rather use. Obviously, Powerful Assault, Olorim, Drake's Rush, Elemental Catalyst, War Machine. There's a lot of sets I'd probably use before Jorvolds personally. I don't actually you would be buffing by slotting Jorvolds and Yolnakrin. And I don't think Sax Jorvolds is good if you're going to be using a main tank. If you're an off tank, potentially, if you're in a real low tier beginner group, Sax and Jorvolds can actually be really good if you combine it in the right type of group. But in most groups, it wouldn't be that good. Is it possible or a good idea to main tank Vast +2 in medium? I just tried to solo tank Olms in medium for a bit. Since I can dodge roll all of the swipes, it worked, but I don't know how it would work or not in other damage sources in the trial. So, you can medium armor tank, Vash +2 main boss. The problem you've got with it is why would you do it? In the current kind of meta of the game, the main tank in that trial would typically use Yolnahkrin and something. So War Machine, Elemental Catalyst, or Worm Cult, or something like that. Now, if you're going to use Elemental Catalyst and Yolnahkrin, you're obviously not going to put Yolnahkrin on the weapons and jewelry. The fact that the main tank needs to wear Yolnahkrin pretty much, because they're always taunting something the off tank isn't, makes it kind of difficult to run a medium armor build. Medium armor tanking can be difficult, even though you can dodge all the swipes. The AoEs are going to hit harder. You're going to have to run an extra skill with Elude and things like that to reduce AoE damage for the jump phases, for the Heavens phases. So there's kind of a lot of reasons not to do it. If you're in a real top tier group and you can find a gear set to use that's medium armor, so maybe in a really good group you could use like War Machine body pieces and then Yolnahkrin weapons and jewelry, and then you could do like a DPS hybrid tank build on the main tank, and then the off tank would have to run Elemental Catalyst and PA. That'd be, I don't know if they'd be able to do it, but if you could skip the mini bosses, they'd be able to keep that up maybe. So yeah, there is possible to run a medium build and be like a DPS main tank. Like, that is something that used to happen many moons ago. People used to set up in medium Taurugs on the body, but this was when like things like Elemental Catalyst and Yolnahkrin didn't exist. So back then, that was a good setup, because yes, you could medium armor tank. Yes, you could dodge roll every hit, and you could get through it, and that was kind of good. But now, because we're kind of restricted in terms of, we need someone using Yolnahkrin, we need someone using PA, having War Machine's good, having, like, you need a radius-based set on the main tank or something that's applying a debuff. So it becomes difficult to actually work a medium set in, because using, like, War Machine body and then Yolnahkrin weapons and jewelry just doesn't really make sense. If you've got a heavy armor set on the weapons and jewelry, like, you might as well just put it on the body. Unless you're in those, like, in those real top groups that you can add like 15 to 20k DPS by setting in medium armor. Like, that is something you can do, but it's not, there's not any point in doing it, especially if you're progressing the trial. Okay, next one. Is Galloway or Drake's is Galloway with Drake's stronger than Yolnahkrin in 4-man if I can maintain good uptimes on Empower or Major Heroism? Galloway and like Drake's, Galloway's not really up there in terms of the sets that I would choose for 4-man content. So the reason for that, let's say you're somebody who queues for a lot of dungeons and it's a random group. You're relying on them people using light attacks consistently. They've got to be light attack weaving to benefit from Galloway. If they're not light attack weaving, they're not going to get any benefit from Galloway. Galloway buffs light attacks and heavy attacks by 40%. So it's a good buff. But because like things like Yolnahkrin, Olorim, things like Drake's Rush, things like War Machine, things like Powerful Assault, those provide bigger buffs for more consistent uptimes, for better uptimes, for more damage. So like Galloway just doesn't provide enough compared to those. Like increasing that weapon damage by huge amounts and things like that is a far bigger benefit than increasing the light attack damage. And especially like increasing everyone's base damage of everything. Like when you consider Powerful Assault, for example, that's going to increase your damage of everything. Whereas Galloway's only increasing your damage of light attacks. So it's not as good for that main reason. Now, you don't have to use Yolnahkrin, because using Drake's Rush and PA is probably slightly more DPS than Yolnahkrin and PA. Using PA body, if you're comfortable running medium armor, with Olorim, that provides more DPS than wearing Yolnahkrin and Olorim, for example. So you don't have to use Yolnahkrin, but Yolnahkrin's the safe option because there's very little between those gear sets. So yeah, Yolnahkrin's just used because it's a heavy set. It's the only real useful 4-man content heavy set. Until next patch, you could use Crimson Oath for like stamina groups. But generally, yeah, the reason you use Yolnahkrin is because it's a heavy set. It gives it that added safety. Most people will be more comfortable using that, and it's a good buff. Okay, last question before we go to the chat. If you've got any questions, post them in the chat, guys. I'll do those next. Anyone have any recommendations on crafted tank gear for levels 10 to 50 to level through the queue? So if you're going to do like a tank build and you're going to level up using the random dungeons, which I think is a great way to learn tanking. So if you're coming into tanking for the first time, one of the better ways to do that is to set up with some gear. queue for random normals, queue for random battlegrounds, get your stuff leveled up, and then you just kind of progress at all times, and it's really, really nice. So in this case, Seducer is a fantastic set for this sort of progressive level, because you do want to still be able to do a little bit of damage as a level 10 to 50 tank. Not necessarily in the queue, but when you're doing Overland, when you're going to go and do Sky Shards and things like that, you do want to have a bit of damage. Seducer's going to give you more Magicka recovery, it's going to help you sustain, it's going to be good. A set to go with that, you can use pretty much anything. Fortified Brass, Torug's Pact, something like Hissbark. Those are all good sets. The sets don't really matter. As long as, like, if you're going to use the queue to level up, just any set with, like, 5 heavy, and then you want to go 5-1-1 as you're leveling. Make sure you got a staff back bar. Make sure you got a sword on board front bar. Leveling everything up at the same time. And that's nice and easy. So there you go. You could pretty much use anything. You could even just use Heavy Hunding's Rage for like a level 10 to 50 tank. It's not going to matter. But you want to have some magical recovery. Seducer's going to really, really help with that.